In my cultural self-assessment, I learned a few things about Russian culture and Arabic culture and how both of these cultures respond to students with disabilities. So Russian culture is very community-based. Russia itself is structured architecturally as a place for having families and children. So there's a lot of resources all around, and there are a lot of playgrounds set up so that families may take their children at, and also for children to play on their own. And because of this kind of communal way of living and raising children, people are more okay with having their kids like admonished almost by strangers. And that's a common tactic that parents eventually end up using when their kids are being bad and they're not listening to them. They'll, point to another woman and be like, look at how that lady is looking at you. And sometimes that will make them kind of open their eyes and look at how they're behaving from a different person's perspective. At least that's how it made me feel whenever my mom would do that. Russians are also very direct communicators. There's not a lot of beating around the bush. There's not a lot of dancing around topics. Russians can feel when someone is, not being direct in what they say, and it bothers them because Russians very much like to get straight to the point, and they like to communicate directly without having to, second guess what someone's thinking, doing, or what their intentions are. Unfortunately, the Russian way of looking at special education is filled with, shame and pity. And a lot of that comes from how difficult it is in Russia to have a child that has any type of disabilities, especially physical ones. A lot of people end up giving these children to orphanages, and once these children are of age, the country doesn't know what to do with them, so a lot of them are placed in mental institutions where their problems just become worse because a lot of these people don't have mental disorders. They just have learning disabilities or, physical disabilities that were never handled and no interventions were ever presented to them. So that's very sad, and I think that Russian communities in America also hold that negative perception. And I don't think it's a unique negative perception. I don't think anyone wants to hear that their child has a disability, or, to find out when a child is born that they have a severe physical ailment that will always, need help for the rest of their life. But some cultures, especially more progressive ones like American culture, tends to look at these disabilities in not necessarily in a positive light, but in a light that this can be helped and that there are interventions that could and should be happening. But Russians sometimes don't think there's a point of intervention because they think of it as almost like a failed case. And because in Russia there is no real system for diagnosing or intervention for these children. And I also learned about Arabic culture, which is like Russia, very family oriented, but they tend to have larger families than Russian families do. Often in America, also like in their home countries, they'll live with multiple family members and multiple generations. Unfortunately, after 9/11, and perhaps even before, there's a lot of discrimination against people from Arabic countries. And sometimes people almost expect that, because I know that if people are experiencing discrimination in their everyday life, they expect it from other areas of their world. So I think teachers need to be understanding of that and make, well, everyone from every culture feel safe, but especially cultures that are more prone to discrimination. Like Russia, there's gender roles. Men are expected to take care of the financial situation of the household, while women take care of children, cook, clean. Let's see. There's a lot of attachment and bonding and interdependence that's emphasized, unlike the American values of independence and self-sufficiency. Arabic culture communicates less directly than Russian culture. They're also close talkers, and they're very close in proximity to each other when they speak, generally, but they tread more softly on certain topics, especially difficult ones. And they also have bad attitudes of guilt and shame and like family pride being scarred. Some may feel that they're punished for wrongdoings, and they also tend to have an attitude that this cannot be helped, that if a child is born disabled, that it's kind of the end of the world. And I think as teachers, we need to be really aware of these negative attitudes and ourselves propel a positive attitude for these parents and for these children, so that maybe through our eyes they can see that if we, like, the experts, technically the experts in this field that are meant to help their children, if we believe that they can be helped, maybe they'll believe so too.